Hello, Patreon. This is for the true fans.
What's up, true fans? All 4 of them. And now you and I are both signed up as true fans, so it's really only 2.
I think so. We have our true fan tier capped at 1,000. So this is the most intimate gathering that we have. Every month we do Ask the Minimalist Anything. This is episode 26 of that. Ask the Minimalist Anything 26. And our first question. Oh, by the way, we're here with Jamie Kilstein.
Hello.
From the Jamie Kilstein
Thanks for
podcast.
joining us. Thanks for being here. This is like a marathon.
It's been great, though.
Yeah.
I mean, and not only that, what we didn't say on the last episode is we talked about my relationship for like a half an hour before we went up on the air.
Yeah.
And we were all like by the mics too. So it was essentially like me getting an intervention. So we've been at this table for a while.
Yeah, man.
We have indeed, and we have some questions from our audience today. Check out Jamie, by the way, Jamie Kilstein podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. He does a daily political podcast, but it's really a comedy podcast that tackles the sort of politics of the day from the center. It's a podcast for the tribalists, and you can also support him on Patreon, patreon.com/Jamie Kilstein podcast. We, the Minimalists, are Patreon supporters of the Jamie Kilstein podcast.
Yeah.
Our first question today is from Brandy. She says, how do you convince your spouse that moving would be best for your family in terms of better jobs, better schoolwork, and better quality of life in general? Is it okay to move even if you're in debt? If you find a higher paying job that can help you pay off your debt even faster? Well, those are 2 separate questions. That last one is easy. Yeah, I mean, if it's going to help you pay off your debt faster, then it's a bad financial decision not to move. Now, there might be other factors in actually moving. Jamie Kilstein just moved to Tucson a couple months ago.
Yeah.
With producer girlfriend Emma.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think a lot of times, look, the best things that have happened in my life were based off the scariest decisions I ever made. So I consider dropping out of high school one of the best things I ever did. I consider living in my car for 2 years being one of the best things I ever did. Now, Brandy might be like, cool, I'm not listening to your advice. But what I mean by that is that taking those chances and those risks in the pursuit of something greater than that paid off. I wouldn't have been a successful comedian. I wouldn't have been on TV if I didn't drop out of high school, but then I started comedy right away at 17. I didn't drop out of high school just to fuck off. When I was living out of my car, it was because I was doing little gigs until I got discovered, and eventually got discovered in Albuquerque, New Mexico during a snowstorm somehow, right? Like those things wouldn't have happened if I didn't do the scary thing, if I just stayed complacent and stayed still. A lot of times we fear doing the scary thing when in reality, what we don't realize is the scariest thing is the status quo. The scariest thing is staying still in a life you're clearly not happy with. Yeah. That is scarier than taking a risk. But we are trained in this society that the risk is the scary thing, and just to stay complacent is the move. So it clearly sounds like for pragmatic and for other reasons she wants to do it.
I think the thing you and I talked about when you were moving to Tucson, the thing that I was trying to tell you is like, by the way, it's always temporary. And the worst case scenario, I don't know where Brandy lives, but when Ryan and I moved from Dayton, Ohio to Missoula, Montana, actually it wasn't even Missoula, it was Phillipsburg. We lived in the middle of nowhere. It was a 4-month experiment. And knowing that in 4 months, we might move back to Dayton. We might move somewhere else.
Yeah.
And we had other cities on the list. Boise was one we thought about. Salt Lake City. Tucson was one that we thought about.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's temporary. You might sign a 1-year lease, or you might buy a house. But everything on a long enough timeline is temporary. You can always move back.
I mean, that's what we did. And not to... Everyone shut up and don't talk to my girlfriend about this. But like... You know, Emma and I are having some like back and forth issues right now, and we both support the shit out of each other no matter what happens. And we were talking about this, that if I end up back in Los Angeles, if she stays in Tucson, if I stay in Tucson, if she goes back with her family, we both are better people with better lives for having gone to Tucson and for having tried something different and for giving the relationship one more stand and removing me from the toxic entertainment world of Los Angeles and removing her from this monotonous 9-to-5 job that now she realizes she's better than, right? And if that's what Tucson gave us, fucking worth it. Totally worth it. And the thing with, it's funny, we had a relationship moving question the first time I was on the show. The thing with talking to your spouse is if he's scared because he thinks that, it's going to wreck the family or put you guys in more debt, then you just got to have a pragmatic conversation about why you think this will be better in the long run. But, if this is just one of those issues where you're like, I need to do something for my happiness and he's not budging for other reasons, I think there's probably a deeper conversation to be had.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
I think Brandy, you and your husband have to get clear on what is the fear that is holding your family back from creating a better life for itself. Because her question, the way I heard it was, there's this better life waiting, but she can't talk. She can't get her husband to see what that better life is. So there's something that her husband's scared about. Here's the thing is we love certainty. We love security. And right now, Brandy's husband feels secure and feels certain with the life he has, even though maybe a worse life. Yeah. And that's what's so messed up.
That happens to so many people.
It's like I have family members who they will self-sabotage because when something is going good in their life, they will self-sabotage because they at least know where that sabotage is going to bring them.
I've done that. You recognize the feeling. You're like, why am I getting jealous of my girlfriend when she's not doing anything? You're like, oh, because this is the pattern that I had when I was a kid, and I recognize that like nervous feeling in my stomach, and I don't like it, but it's familiar, and we love things that are familiar. I mean, I would also examine, because here's the thing. So it could be that, and something really cool that Emma did when she left her job. It was funny. She was so scared to leave her job, and like she still had 2 roommates. It wasn't even like she sold out, and she was like the head of Goldman Sachs, and I was like, come be an artist with me. She was like living a shitty life for a sellout job, and was still so scared to leave. And everyone who worked with her was like, are you sure? Like, maybe you shouldn't leave. And these were all also people who like didn't have passion, who would drink in the office. Like, they were all kind of holding each other back. So it is hard. The only thing I would kind of wonder is if my wife or husband was like, hey, I know how to get us out of debt. All we got to do is like move. I'd be like, fuck yeah, let's do it. I wonder if there's some deeper stuff there, because the financial thing came at the end. Like, do you also want to move because like the relationship is in a weird place and you're trying to save it? Is there something he's scared of that doesn't have to do with money, where it's like, like, what's the job? Are you like, we'll be able to get out of debt because I'll be a high paid escort in New York? Like, why is he scared besides just the generic reasons? Is there a deeper reason? In which case, when I'm not saying she's wrong, but when you approach it with him, you can't just be like, it's just about money. If he's scared that he's going to lose you, for example, during the move, you need to figure out like, why is he scared? And then that has to be the conversation.
I think all this said too, like, Brandy, you don't want to talk your husband into anything. Like, if you got to talk him into something, like, that's probably not going to end well.
Oh, that's what I'm going through.
So,
yeah, that's a great point.
Everything that we're talking about, I mean, because there's some nuance here that we don't know. You've got to get clear on the details that we've been talking about the last 7 or 8 minutes. And you've got to help your husband see the plan that you see, and then you guys have to come to an agreement on why you should move. But yes. Brandy, there's nothing Josh or I are going to say. And even if I had the answer, be like, oh, you could use this one simple trick to talk your husband into moving to a new city.
There's an app.
Yeah, I wouldn't even give that simple trick to you, because like, you don't want to talk your husband into anything.
Because then he'll resent you too.
Yep. Yeah.
You do,
absolutely.
however, want to show him the benefits. And so right now, he understands the benefits of the certainty and the comfort that Ryan talked about. He does not understand the benefits of growth that he might experience from this new place. I will, however, say that geography will not fix a relationship. It may temporarily. It's like having a baby and buying a new house isn't going to fix a relationship for you either. In fact, it could obviously just add additional complexity to the relationship. So the question now is, Brandy, are you and your husband, or both of you, or either one of you, are you running away from something? And if so, then moving is probably not the right thing to do. However, if you're running towards something, if you're moving to Tucson because a new job opportunity is going to align with your passions, it's going to align with the future version of yourself, the person you want to be, it's going to help you get out of debt, then show your husband those benefits and run toward it. But if you're running away from something, you need to deal with those problems before you run.
I mean, fuck it. I'll say it. That's what we did. Like, we weren't going to survive in LA. Like, we fell hard in love, and then we had a really rough patch, and a lot of it had to do with LA. And she was like, do you want to get the fuck out of here? And the good news is both of us had reasons outside of the relationship that leaving Los Angeles would help us, right? Like what I talked about before, me being in the toxic entertainment, her being in the shitty job or whatever. So because we each had individual reasons, if we break up, we're both going to be better for it. If she's dragging this dude along, like I can say that like Tucson didn't save our relationship. It put us both in a better spot. And because we were both in a better spot, our relationship got better for a little while. We are happier as individuals. It is just a better living space for us. But if one of us was like Brandy's husband, if I just didn't want to go to Tucson and I only went to save this relationship that was kind of dying anyway, now I'm pissed. Because now I don't have anything, I'm resentful, and the relationship's not fixed. When we got there, what we realized was, location wasn't great for us. Tucson's better than Los Angeles. But now we're confronting sort of the deeper issues that were hurting the relationship. We're just doing it for a lot cheaper in Tucson.
Tucson's a great place, by the way. Angie has a question. My 13-year-old, she'll be 14 in December, watched your documentary a couple of weeks a couple of weeks ago, as a part of my journey to show my family the changes I am making. She was really interested in the parts around fast fashion. What would you advise as a good starting point for her to find out more? Well, Andrew Morgan's documentary, The True Cost, is the first place I'm going to go. Yeah. With respect to fast fashion. It's mostly
about fashion, right?
Yeah. The whole documentary is essentially about the true cost of the goods, mainly so now we're in this weird cycle. Jamie, you may not know a whole lot about this, but there are now 52 seasons a year for these fast fashion retailers.
No, I do.
Places like H&M or whatever, and they will burn clothes as opposed to reusing them, recycling them, donating them to people, because they don't want lesser people to wear their fancy clothes.
No, I learned this from you guys.
So
it's so evil.
I think that's probably the best place to turn. But as opposed to the thing that really stood out to me, we just had a conversation with Tara Button from BuyMeOnce.com.
That was the second resource I was going to say.
Yeah, when the other resource that I was going to say, so BuyMeOnce.com, and then Amy Ann Cadwell, The Good Trade. We had her on the podcast.
Oh yeah.
And her website is all about eschewing fast fashion and being sustainable. We did a sustainability podcast with her. So check out the podcast we did with her. Check out the one we have coming out with Tara Button. Check out thegoodtrade.com. Check out Andrew Morgan's documentary. It's called The True Cost. And then check out buymeonce.com. But the thing that Tara Button said to me that was really profound, and I'm going to use this in other areas of my life too, she said, only wear it if you would wear it, if you were in, what was the movie? It's not iRobot. I Am Legend. Yeah. You remember Will Smith and I Am Legend? All the monsters are chasing him or whatever. Like, you're not going to put on your, I'm going to put on my Brooks Brothers suit today.
Yeah, dude, I'm a 37-year-old guy, and we were in Sedona, and I wore, tight black, hipster pre-ripped jeans. I couldn't hike up half the shit. And I'm an athletic dude. I fight. The next day I wore sweats and I was leaping from rocks and all this stuff. But I'm literally ruined an entire day in Sedona just because I was I didn't have functional. I was just I treated myself when I got a little money where I'm I need one nice pair of pants. And then I wore it like an idiot there. And I was I literally can't walk up there. My only advice is appreciate that you have a dope kiddo. Like
Yeah.
a 14-year-old who's
Amen.
like asking those questions. Like, oh,
Way
so
ahead
cool.
of the game.
Yeah.
Marty says, what do you think the most effective way to create positive change in our country is?
Ooh, it's okay. So we were just talking about this on the Maximal episode.
Yeah, so this will actually come out before that Maximal episode comes out.
So get ready.
So yeah, when you
get
hear
ready.
the,
we
when you
talk
hear
a lot
the,
about politics.
yeah, when you hear the Buttigieg episode come out, yeah, look for that Maximal episode. But I think I touched on it when I was talking about how I just want to throw my hands in the air and contribute to my community and to the people closest around me, whether it's my friends, family, or my neighbors, or people in my community who need the help. Like, that's the best way you're going to create change in this country. It is not by going to Twitter, which, by the way, I meant to cover this on the Maximal episode.
Yeah.
Twitter and Facebook, the news, it's a fake world. It is a...
It does not exist outside of there.
It doesn't exist outside of
You
there.
go ask anybody about the trending topics, just like at the deli, they're gonna be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
It's so hyperbolic that it gets people so worked up that it actually does the opposite of what people think it does. So I guess it's just my long-winded way of saying, don't go to Twitter to change the country. Don't go to Facebook to change the country. Go bake your neighbor a pie. Do you know your neighbor? If not, then go get to know your neighbor. Do you know the community? Do you know the issues that your community faces on a daily, on a monthly, on a yearly basis? Go find out what those issues are and see how you can help. Like, that is how you're going to bring the country together, is when you can get individuals contributing toward their community like that. I mean, I don't know of any better way.
No,
And
that
there are local groups, local organizations. You know, it might be a part of a connect group at your local church. It could be a meetup.com group. It could be a minimalist.org group that is local. You can actually use some of these tools like Facebook or Twitter. Like Jamie and I connected on Twitter.
Yeah.
That's an important first step.
Mm-hmm.
But when you live in that world, and I think that's what Ryan is getting at there, like if we just want to go live there, it's not a place of growth. It's the first step towards something. I love what Ryan said about throwing my hands up, but then contributing to my community. And so the irony of that, the beautiful part of that is the least throwing your hands up thing you can do, because what he did is that he threw his hands up. I'm fed up with the whole the tyranny of this chart we were going over of the political rhetoric, right?
Yeah.
And so threw his hands up to that, and instead got his hands dirty.
Yeah. Did I tell you I contacted you on Twitter because I was trying to impress a girl I was sleeping with? That's why I started listening to the podcast. She showed me the documentary, and I was like, oh, me and this guy got some mutual friends. I'm like, I bet I could fucking make this happen.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And then I became legitimate fans, and then we became legitimate friends.
That's so cool.
So, yeah. I said a lot about it on the other episode, so I don't want to get redundant.
That'll be out next Thursday for those of you listening to this.
But I will say, obviously, when it comes to politics, yeah, local is where you can really affect change, especially when you feel helpless in the bigger picture. But just to get even cheesier, we are so divided right now that I cannot tell you how happy I am when like a stranger offers to help me, or I've had cashiers be like, hey man, it was like legitimately nice talking to you. Thank you for like not being on your like fucking phone, and just like connecting with people. And then that guy's going to go make someone else's day. And then that person's going to go make someone else's day. And it's just, don't be a dick. Like, you can just walk around and not be a dick.
You're going to make a shirt of that, aren't you?
I
please?
should.
Don't be
I
a dick.
should. I sign off on my podcast, go outside and don't be a dick. That's like
Yeah.
my tagline.
I love that, dude.
But it's true. And take care of yourself too. That's another thing. So many times I'm trying to think of things I like didn't say on the episode, if this sounds weird, but it is true, where the times I'm lashing out on Twitter, or the times I'm pissed off, or the times I'm, being selfish in my relationship, usually are times I'm not taking care of myself, and I'm eating shitty, and I'm not going to the gym. And if you can be a little selfish, that enables you to be selfless, right? If you can be, if you can spend that time making yourself a better person, taking an hour to read a book in the morning instead of jumping on your phone, or to meditate or do yoga or whatever, you're going to be in a way better place, and you're going to walk confidently with your head up, and you're going to see the person who needs help with their groceries, or you're going to, play with the dog who's walking by you, or whatever. And it really helps, man. it helps a lot. And
Yeah.
I know politics seems helpless. Oh, and then the other thing I was going to say is when you do make your neighbor a pie, or when you do talk to the cashier or whatever, a lot of times that actually opens the door to then have like a meaningful conversation about politics where you can actually change someone's mind instead of just yell at them about why they're wrong.
Yeah.
And then maybe they vote differently. You know?
Absolutely. You know, the cliche came to my mind where it's be the change that you want to see in the world.
Yep.
And I hate that is like
The worst.
it's this they've turned it into a, a
accessories poster.
it's like a Comic Sans accessory poster to where now you hear that and you're like, oh, be the change you want to be in the world.
Yeah.
But like it is true. It's like
There's politicians saying that who are like bombing other countries. And you're like, you fucking liars.
Like no,
But
it's
it is true.
It is true. It's like if you want to change the country, like you've got to be the example, and in order to be the example, you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of others, and that's
be
that's the way to do
brave,
it.
be confident,
Yeah.
be nice.
Connor says, can you give us more details on your new book and your new documentary? Looking forward to both. Ryan, you want to talk about the documentary since we're working on that first?
I kind of want to talk about the book. You talk about the documentary.
All right, well, I want to talk about the first line of the book. So you,
Well,
Guys, let's talk about my podcast. It's the Jamie Kilstein podcast. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram.
no, we cannot talk about our book or documentary. We're going to talk about Jamie Kilstein's podcast. Yeah, sure. Go for it, man.
I'll talk about the documentary. The documentary is called Less Is Now. It's with Netflix. We're working on it right now. Matt D'Avella is directing it. And it is a prequel to our previous documentary.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's the first ever prequel. Have you ever seen a prequel to a documentary?
No, this is incredible.
And it is actually, we're calling it a docu-special. And so, because it is one part stand-up comedy special without comedy, and then one part documentary.
Furious if you use comics that weren't me. Furious.
Well, it's us. We're the comics.
Great. That's
Without
fine.
the comedy.
That's
Yeah,
good.
this is the our last documentary was not the Josh and Ryan show, but this is the Josh and Ryan show.
So
to a great
excited. This
extent,
is
yeah.
awesome.
It really goes back into there are some reenactments in it. So of younger us, me and Ryan at the lunch table in high school, and also just everything that led us up toward minimalism, and the events that led us toward minimalism, and documenting that, but also documenting what's going on in our consumer culture. There's sort of, and there's also a digital minimalism element to it as well. So the documentary should be out next year on Netflix in 2020. And when exactly, I don't know. I know when it's due, but then we'll have to work on getting it out there into the world. We've been working on it since beginning of 2017, so that's when we started filming the beginning of it. In fact, we finished it twice at this point,
Great.
and it has not been what we wanted. And so we went to Netflix and said, hey, can you give us some money so we can make this what we want?
That's the best helpless feeling, by the way. Like looking at like this baby that we created, well, really that Matt D'Avella created, and it's helpless because you're like, we can't put this out. Like this is not.
Yeah.
This doesn't meet our standards, but it's like the best feeling because Josh and I are willing to walk away from anything.
It's the best.
And being able to just like walk away from it and be like, we got to go ask Netflix for help because
It's such a superpower.
it really is,
being
man.
willing to walk away.
I'm really trying to. That's the lesson that I'm trying to take out of this podcast, but also like what we were talking about before the show and stuff like that. Is just having and again, it goes back to confidence, right? Like that confidence and that bravery, just to be like, I'm gonna be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like that's actually why my comedy's gotten better, is leaving LA and getting out. Like I'm just doing it for me. I think my podcast in the last couple of weeks has gotten better because I've stopped thinking about who's going to get upset if I say this, or is the new Republican going to leave if I do this, or is the Democrat going to be offended if I say this word even while being liberal. And I've just like been way more unfiltered, and goddamn, it's been so much more fun and freeing. And yeah, that happens in your life too, you know, like so yeah, that's kind of my mantra that I will be meditating on today.
Josh, all right, say the first line of the book. It's a great segue into what I want to talk about with the book.
So our next book is called Love People, Use Things. By the time it comes out in 2021, it will have been, so we finished our last book, Everything That Remains. The first draft of this was written, I'm holding up for the camera here, if you're watching on video. The first draft of this was written in 2012. It came out in 2014, but the first draft of this thing was written. We were in that cabin in the middle of nowhere, 2012. And so it'll be almost a decade between books, strangely.
Yeah.
And this book is called Love People Use Things. It's a relationship book, but not a traditional relationship book. I'll let Ryan talk about some of the relationships in there. But the first relationship is our relationship with the truth. And so the first line of the book is, from my perspective, and it is, I cheated on my wife the day after my mother died of cancer.
Who among us hasn't done that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we talk about some pretty deep truths that we haven't talked about before.
Yeah. Well, here's what I like about the book. People will ask me, they're like, Ryan, I get the minimalist thing. I understand, I don't want to, be this multimillionaire, and I don't want to just pursue money, and I don't want to just pursue things. I want to pursue a meaningful life, but I still have the urge. Like I do want to try it out though. And how do I ignore that feeling of wanting to have it all? And I think what this book does, because it goes through these different relationships, whether it's finances, whether it's with truth, whether it's with technology, we go into depth with these relationships we have in our lives that do totally speak to and create these impulses. And this book, I feel like, is actually going to help answer that question. Because first off, there isn't a one-line answer that's going to be like, well, do this one thing and you're not going to want to be rich anymore. Or do this one thing and you're not going to want the latest iPhone anymore. Or do this one thing, you're not going to want a nice car and a big house.
Find an ayahuasca shaman in Peru.
Right. Yeah. And even that is like, it's a temporary fix. But like the book that we are writing, I think, does get to the core of each of these relationships that do affect the impulses we have in our life. So that's why I look forward to putting this book out there, because when someone asks me that question, I'm gonna be like, look, I don't have a simple answer for you, but I've got a book that will help you deal with not just the stuff, but also deal with these lies that you're telling yourself when it comes to the stuff. The way technology affects your life, that is,
and gets in the way of your creativity.
Exactly.
I have a couple of things. Number one, I bought that book, and I'm poor. That's how much I love you guys.
Thanks for everything that remains.
Yeah, whenever my friends like put something out, I was just like, I fucking better be getting a free copy of that because daddy got no money. But yeah, I support the shit out of it. So I'm so excited about this new book. So that one, people missed my sincere reaction on the last episode when you read that first line, and I think I gasped. I think that line stands for something. So I did you guys know like the On It dudes like Aubrey Marcus and I did Kyle Kingsbury's podcast yesterday, and we were talking about just being open with like our fuck ups and our mistakes, and this probably ties into a lot of the cancel culture stuff we also talked about. But I think that is also another superpower, and I think that's literally one of the keys to leading a fulfilling life. Is we spend so much time trying to like cover up or blame others or excuse our shitty behavior. And when you can realize, when we're not just screaming about why celebrities are problematic, but when you can realize why you're problematic, why everyone's problematic, why maybe you're the reason that you and your girlfriend are fighting and it's not her fault, or it's not the way you were raised, or whatever. When you can be honest with yourself and your goal is just to get better, holy shit. I mean, your life this has been circumstantially some of the worst years of my life, and like mentally and like me as a human, some of the best, just because I'm like, what did I fuck up, or what can I get better at, and I just call myself out on my shit, and without being self-hating, and really, really empowering and important. And then what I was going to say something about what you were saying. With the book, when you were talking about, having that answer for people who want everything. I mean, I know you guys have probably given a million examples, but just personally me, when I was in the miserable relationship and doing a show I wasn't happy with and didn't really have friends, and I became the cliche I made fun of, where it was the first time I had money, and it wasn't, I think sometimes when people hear, you hear about the rich people or whatever, you think like, oh, well, I don't want to be that person because I'm not a selfish asshole, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not a selfish asshole, and I became that person because I was sad. So sometimes we don't realize that we're doing it. So I bought a Pac-Man machine for fucking $3,000 that I never played. Not because I'm like, fuck you, poor people, like, or that. Like, I was also donating to charity and shit like that. I bought it because that put out the image of who I wanted to be that I wasn't. I want to be the cool fucking dude who lives in Park Slope and has a Pac-Man machine. So when people come over, instead of going, hey, what's going on with this failed marriage? They go, hey, look at the Pac-Man machine. That's pretty cool. And I could be the idea of a rich person that I had when I was like a kid, right? Like the cool, successful guy. And it just made everything worse. It just was like more shit to get rid of during the divorce, and no one wanted to buy a Pac-Man machine because people weren't as dumb as I was. And then I can tell you, whether it's with my comedy, so same with comedy, right? With comedy, I started to get impatient, where I had this year I was very successful and agents were fighting over me and I was getting on TV and stuff. But then I got impatient because I was like, people are going to think I'm a fraud and it's going to go away. So I was like, why can't we get this sooner? Why don't I have a special? And I sabotaged my own career, whereas now I lost everything. And now I'm happy to go on stage at an open mic because I get to try a new joke because I'm excited about the art. And I'm not thinking about when am I going to get my Netflix special, that stuff will come. But I'm enjoying comedy so much more. Just like now I have a 1-bedroom place instead of a 4-bedroom place on Prospect Park. And every little thing, from like being able to like look at the stars to like the way the grass smells. I'm noticing these things that I never noticed in my fancy apartment just because I'm actually happy and I don't need as much. So like he could get all that stuff, but like not gonna fix shit, you know? And you can also still want to be successful and take care of your family without wanting to be like a Scrooge McDuck type character, you know?
Yeah. You did just make me think of a one-liner, though. It's like something like, the sooner you can let go of those impulses, the sooner you can like truly love life.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. Like, I had to rock bottom to discover all that stuff. Yeah. If people could do that without rock bottoming and just appreciate what they have or, you know, whatever, then you're good. But you also have to think about the reasons you do want that stuff. Are the reasons because it'll fix things that you should be fixing yourself? It'll give you more confidence. It'll be, you know, people are like, well, I'd quit drinking, but that's when I get confident. It's like, well, why don't you just be confident?
Right.
Why don't you just work on that instead of these like duct tape solutions that are going to burst at the seams and leave you with a fucking Pac-Man machine you can't get rid of?
Yeah.
All right, true fans, we are out of time. I want to encourage you to check out Jamie Kilstein.
Yeah.
His podcast is called The Jamie Kilstein Podcast, and it's also on Patreon if you want to support him. We support him. Jamie Kilstein Podcast. Well, patreon.com/Jamie Kilstein Podcast. Jamie, thank you for being here today.
I love you guys a lot.
Love you too, man.
Thanks,
we love you. Love people, use things.
We love you, true fans. Goodbye.